is Jalen Rose. I am David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we
get
do?
the people what they want.
Jalen Rose, I can't get enough of watching James Harden and Joel Embiid on the same basketball team. Last night against the Chicago Bulls, another team with their eyes on the top of the East. Embiid was absolutely dominant, putting in 43 points, doing it from everywhere. What do you think about Joel last night and ever since Harden's been in town?
He was on his run from Run DMC. He was like, we have a whole lot of superstars on this stage here tonight, but I want to let y'all know one thing. This is my house. And when I say whose house, I want y'all to say Joel's house. That's what I saw last night. And by the way, unfortunately for the Bulls, when they go against the top teams in either conference, winless.
Winless.
Winless, literally. And so 0-14, 0-14 are the Bulls versus the top teams in either conference.
The top three teams in each conference.
What I saw last night was James Harden basically saying they have nobody to guard you. You're a front runner for MVP. We're going to keep feeding you and feeding you and feeding you. And by the way, the thing I liked about Joel Embiid, Jacoby, is not only the attempts, but the free throws, the aggression, the flat out dominance is what I'm talking about that was on display. And I appreciate watching Joel. I appreciate how Harden is moving the ball and how Maxey, since Harden has gotten there, has really picked up his play. The Philadelphia 76ers are a legitimate contender.
So I've been watching a lot of these Sixers since Harden has got there, and one thing about Harden, which is so good to be alongside Joel Embiid, is he didn't really have it shooting last night. So he says, you know what? I'll just get everybody else involved. I'm gonna end up with 14 assists, you know, because he didn't really shoot the ball that well. But the players around him are good enough, like Maxey and Embiid, that it's just easy money for him to orchestrate like he did when he was with the Rockets.
Well, you get a chance to pace yourself. That's the whole thing. And by the way, as these, you know, top 75 player is James Harden. When these all NBA players, Jacoby, move from one team to another, their role changes. So James Harden went from being the number one alpha, for example, in Houston. Now that's Joel Embiid. So to your point, he can pace himself. He doesn't have to be the guy that's scoring 30 and 35 because, as you just alluded to, when he was that guy, it seemed like he wasn't able to carry it all the way through the playoffs. Now, I don't know if it was fatigue. I don't know if it just, you know, his game doesn't mirror the playoffs, what it has in the regular season, but the stats speak for themselves. But again, these ascending Philadelphia 76ers are really going to be a tough out in the playoffs.
And they have some games coming up that will truly test them, and I would love to see it, and I can't wait to see it in the upcoming week. Jalen, you mentioned Harden pacing himself. And remember, Harden just recently sat out in Miami because of that hamstring that's been bothering him for about a year now. Well, Mr. Rose, after the game, I need you to take us behind the curtain on this one. Here's James Harden after the game. The 76ers tweeted this out, him running up a flight of stairs in a post-game workout. Jalen, what is the motivation for this? Is he doing it for the cameras? If he's really hurt, why is he doing this? Did you ever work out after games? Something tells me the answer is no to the last one.
Well, it's not really for the cameras per se. However, it's okay now. If you're going to be missing practices and you're going to be missing games because you're telling us you have a hamstring injury, this is what we expect you to do to treat it. So that's what that is. So now we'll see how many games he's willing to miss because of his hamstring injury, knowing that he ain't going to be able to go put on his gear after the game and go kick it wherever he want to go kick it, because now he got to run the stairs in the arena, and we're showing the footage of a seasoned veteran doing so. But again, he's reinvesting in his health, reinvesting in himself, reinvesting in his health, and he understands that he's on a contending situation, and this can't be one that he quit on like he did with the Rockets and like he did with the Nets.
You mentioned that Joel Embiid is the front runner for MVP. However, my personal pick for MVP is the stretch mark 5, the Joker, Nikola Jokic. Last night, it was the Nuggets taking on the Warriors. The Warriors didn't play anybody, so you can't read too much into the win, but you can read a lot into this performance from him. 32, 15, and 13 from the Joker.
So here's what I want to make sure I make fans and media members and even players in the league understand. What you're seeing from the Joker, somebody his size being a point center, getting triple doubles, the only other person that has done it like this is Wilt Chamberlain. Let me just say that out loud. A 7-footer getting double-figure assists with triple doubles, Wilt Chamberlain. And so as you start to talk about the MVP race, you're going to look at the standings. Joel Embiid's team is getting closer to the number 1 seed. The defending world champion Milwaukee Bucks, they're in the top 3 or so. That, to me, is going to be a determining factor. The Joker, since his team isn't in the top 2 or 3 in the West, people underestimating his dominance because he won it last year. And there's a recency bias for Jokic, and then there's going to be a recency fatigue of Giannis because he's already won it twice. So along with Joel Embiid's productivity, that puts him in pole position. But if you look at those stats, they're comparable.
Look at the assists. Look at the assists.
But hold on. Look at Giannis and Joel Embiid's numbers. Giannis' numbers are better.
Better.
You see what I'm saying? So that's going to come down to who's ahead in the standings. And Joker's numbers, when you talk about boards and assists, it ain't even a competition compared to the other two. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm a voter. I'm not going to suffer from recency bias. However, when I woke up this morning, I felt like Joel Embiid was in pole position to win MVP.
So let me pitch you on Jokic, right? Joel Embiid now has James Harden playing with him, and he's always had players around him that sort of complemented him, was built for him. Jokic is missing his number 2 and number 3 option, 2 other highest paid players on the team, and what he's been able to do with this roster is more impressive than what those other 2 have been able to do. And while he averages 4 points less than them, he also averages 2 more assists than Giannis and 4 more assists than Embiid, and the offenses run through him, and he makes everybody around him better. To me, that is why he is my MVP. But Jalen, I know you have an actual vote. You got to hold on to that one. You know what I mean? This is going to come down to the wire in an MVP race like we haven't had in a few years, and it's very exciting. Jalen, someone who I assume will be in the MVP conversation for years to come, not so much this year right now, is a gentleman by the name of Luka Doncic. And yesterday it was Luka and the Mavs against the Jazz. And I kind of thought after the KP trade that they were kind of waving the white flag on this season and they was kind of packing it in and going to reload for next season. Not the case. The Mavs have been hot and they keep winning games 5 in a row to beat the Jazz.
This is not a good look for Utah because they're one of the squads coming into this season that kept their core intact, their coaching staff pretty much intact. You have Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Jordan Clarkson, 6 man a year. You want a healthy Mike Conley. You felt like they should be knocking on the door, especially the way they lost in the playoffs the last couple of years. And now you're seeing teams like Memphis ascend ahead of them. You're seeing the Mavs topple them like they did last night. And it's all about Luka. You see the 35, 16, and 7. But he had help, and you talked about trading Porzingis. They traded him for Spencer Dinwiddie. And what ends up happening in the league, Jacoby, it's kind of like when you have a starting quarterback in the NFL, you want the backup to mirror him in a lot of ways, so if he goes out, you don't have to change much of your offense. That's the exact same thing you can have with Spencer. As a ball-dominant, tall guard, he now gives you a secondary ball handler with Luka, a primary ball handler and scorer when Luka's not in, and Finney Smith, who they gave a contract extension to, and rightfully so, a knockdown three-point shooter and defender, gives you the athleticism. I applaud Jason Kidd for instilling defense into this team. That's something that they didn't have the last couple of years, and now all of a sudden they're competing defensively. Luka's playing dominant, and the Mavs will continue to ascend in the Western Conference.
Well, Luka and Rudy Gobert had a couple incidents that I need you to walk us through here. It starts at the end of a quarter, right? Gobert gets switched onto Luka, right? Luka takes this shot. Gobert gets to stop. Watch him with the ball. This is an old school trick right there. Gives him the ball, then he throws it back, and of course we're going to have a little hold me back moment. What do you think of this back and forth?
I think, hold me back is what I think, and happily so. I joke about hold me back because you don't want to lose your composure, get into a fight in the NBA game, cost yourself a lot of money, cost your team a lot of games, and cost yourselves an opportunity. Here's what that is, Jacoby. They're jockeying for the same space, so they can't be cool. Let me repeat that. They're jockeying for the same space. So
Jalen.
they can't be cool.
However, I need you to break down this next incident because something happens here I think I've never seen before. If you watch Luka flops, right, and then gets up and acts like he wants to fight. Can you flop and then act like you want to fight within 4 seconds of each other?
In today's game, I believe you can, but Luka should get a fine from the NBA on this one. That's what I'm talking about. He should get a pink slip from the NBA on this one. I guarantee you're going to see a Woj bomb at the bottom of the screen that Luka got fined by the league $5,000 for flopping. Because guess what? He don't want no problems with Rudy Gobert.